Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Easy English Podcast. I'm Hannah, and as always, I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Alex. How are you doing today, Alex?
Hi, Hannah. I'm doing great, and I'm really excited about today's episode. Today, we're talking about something almost all of us do every single week, going to the grocery store. But specifically, we're talking about grocery store technology. You know, those modern machines we use to pay for our food.
Yes, we are talking about the self-checkout machine. Some people love them, some people find them a bit scary or confusing. Today, we have a very relatable story about a character who uses one of these machines, makes a little mistake, and has to solve it. But before we get into the story, let's learn some useful words and phrases so our listeners can feel confident next time they shop.
That's a perfect idea. Let's start with the name of the machine itself, self-checkout. Self means you do it yourself, and checkout is the place where you pay. So instead of a human cashier scanning your items, you do it.
Exactly. When you walk up to a self-checkout machine, the first thing you see is a large screen. We call this a touch screen. It is a screen that responds to your touch. You don't need a keyboard or a mouse. You just tap the screen with your finger.
Right, a touch screen. For example, you might hear the machine say, "Please touch the screen to begin." Hannah, what is the very first thing you usually do when you start using the touch screen?
Well, usually you have to choose your language. The screen will show different flags or names of languages. You tap English, and then the machine starts talking to you or showing instructions in English. This is very helpful if you are traveling.
It really is. Once you select your language, the next step is to scan your items. To scan means to hold the product's barcode in front of a red light. This light is called a scanner. The scanner reads the black and white lines on the package to know what the product is and how much it costs.
And when you scan an item, the machine makes a very specific sound. It goes beep. I think everyone knows that sound. If you don't hear the beep, it means the machine didn't read the barcode and you have to try again.
Yes, beep is actually a great verb we use in English. You can say, make sure the machine beeps before you put the item in your bag. And speaking of bags, there's a very important area next to the machine called the bagging area.
Oh, the bagging area. That area can be very sensitive. It has a built-in scale to weigh your items. The machine expects you to place every item you scan directly into your shopping bag in that specific area. If you don't, a friendly but sometimes annoying voice will say, "Please place the item in the bagging area."
Oh, I hear that voice in my dreams sometimes, Hannah. It can be so polite but so persistent. Unexpected item in bagging area. It means the scale detected some weight that it didn't expect. Maybe you put your car keys there or your purse, and the machine gets confused.
Exactly. Now, what happens if you buy fruits or vegetables? They don't have barcodes on them. How do we scan a banana or an apple?
That is a great question. For loose items like fruits and vegetables, you have to use the touchscreen to look them up. Usually there is a button on the screen that says produce or look up item. You tap that, and then you can type the name of the item, like banana, or look at pictures on the screen.
And once you find the picture of the banana, you have to weigh it. The metal surface where you scanned the item is actually a scale. You put the bananas on the scale, and the machine automatically calculates the price based on how heavy they are. It is actually very clever technology.
It is, but sometimes things go wrong. Maybe the machine freezes, or you accidentally scan an item twice. When that happens, you cannot fix it yourself. You need help from the store monitor or attendant.
Yes, the store monitor is an employee who stands near the self-checkout area. Their job is to watch the machines, help customers who are having trouble, and approve things like age-restricted items. They have a special card or code that can unlock the machine.
So if you make a mistake, you don't need to panic. You just look for the store monitor and say, "Excuse me, I made a mistake. Can you help me?" They are always very friendly and used to fixing these little issues.
By the way, if you are enjoying Sarah's story today, taking a second to like this episode or subscribe to our channel really helps us reach other learners around the world.
It really does. And please leave any questions in the comments as we love reading and answering them. Anyway, back to Sarah at the checkout machine.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about the final step of using the self-checkout, paying. After you scan all your groceries, you tap a big button on the touchscreen that says Pay Now or Finish and Pay.
And then the machine will ask you how you want to pay. You usually have two main options, cash or card. If you choose cash, you use a card reader next to the screen. You can swipe your card, insert it, or just tap it if you have contactless payment.
But if you choose cash, you have to insert paper bills into a slot or drop coins into a coin slot. The machine then calculates how much money you gave it and gives you your change.
Ah, change. That is a key vocabulary word for today's story. Change is the money you get back when you pay with more money than the item costs. For example, if your groceries cost $8 and you pay with a $10 bill, your change is $2.
Yes, and the machine dispenses this change. To dispense means to give out. The coins will drop into a small cup at the bottom, and the paper bills will slide out of a slot. Sometimes, because these slots are in different places, it is very easy to forget to take your change.
Oh, absolutely. You are busy putting your receipt in your pocket, grabbing your heavy grocery bags, and you just walk away, leaving your money behind in the machine. That is exactly what happens to our character in today's story.
Let's jump right into the story of Sarah. Sarah is a busy college student who is always on the go. Today, she is making a quick trip to the local supermarket because she wants to buy ingredients for a big bowl of spaghetti. She needs pasta, a jar of tomato sauce, and some fresh garlic.
That sounds like a delicious dinner, Hannah. So, Sarah walks into the supermarket, grabs a small shopping basket, and quickly finds her items. The store is quite busy today, with lots of people standing in long lines at the regular checkout counters.
Exactly. When Sarah sees those long lines, she decides to use the self-checkout area. There are 6 self-checkout machines, and one of them is completely free. She walks over to it, places her basket on the shelf, and gets ready to scan.
Now remember, when you use a self-checkout, you have to find the barcode on each item. A barcode is that little pattern of black stripes and white spaces that the machine reads. Sarah picks up her bag of pasta, finds the barcode, and holds it in front of the red laser light of the scanner.
And the machine goes beep. That is the sound we love to hear. It means the item was successfully scanned and added to her bill. She does the same thing with the jar of tomato sauce. Beep. Then she has to scan the fresh garlic.
Ah, yes. Garlic doesn't usually have a barcode printed on it, does it? This is a very common situation at the supermarket. For fresh vegetables and fruits, which we call produce, you have to use the touchscreen.
That's right, Alex. Sarah taps a button on the screen that says Search for Items. She types in the word garlic, and a picture of garlic pops up on the screen. She taps the picture, then she places the garlic on the metal surface of the machine. Why does she do that, Alex?
Because that metal surface is actually a built-in scale. A scale is a tool that measures how heavy something is. The machine weighs the garlic and calculates the price based on its weight. Once it calculates the price, Sarah places the garlic into her shopping bag.
Great! Now she has all her ingredients in her bag. Her total bill comes to $7.50. Sarah looks in her wallet. She doesn't want to use her bank card today, so she decides to pay with cash. She has a $10 bill.
So she selects Cash on the touchscreen. A green light next to the bill slot starts flashing. This tells her exactly where to insert her money. She slides her crisp $10 bill into the slot. The machine pulls the bill inside and processes it.
Now, let's do some quick math. Her total was $7.50. She paid with a $10 bill. How much change should Sarah get back from the machine?
Well, $10 minus $7.50 leaves $2.50. So the machine needs to give her $2.50 in change.
Perfect. The machine starts making some whirring noises. At the same time, Sarah is feeling a bit rushed because there is a line of people waiting behind her. She quickly grabs her grocery bag with her left hand, and with her right hand, she grabs the paper receipt that just printed out.
And this is the moment where the mistake happens. Because she is feeling rushed and distracted, Sarah forgets about the actual cash. She completely forgets that she is owed $2.50 in change.
Yes, she just walks away. She walks past the security gates and heads towards the exit of the supermarket. But just as she is about to walk through the sliding glass doors into the cold afternoon air, she puts her hand in her pocket to check her phone, and she feels her empty wallet.
Oh no, that sudden realization is the worst feeling, isn't it? She thinks, wait a minute, I gave the machine $10, but I didn't get my $2.50 back. She stops in her tracks.
She freezes. She realizes her mistake immediately. But now she has a problem. She has already walked away from the machine. Can she just run back and grab it? What if someone else is already using that machine?
Exactly. It is a very delicate situation. She turns around and walks back into the store. When she gets back to the self-checkout area, she sees that a new customer, a man with a large cart, is already standing in front of her machine.
This is where Sarah needs to be polite but proactive. To be proactive means to take action to solve a problem rather than just waiting. She spots the store monitor. The store monitor is the employee who stands near the self-checkouts to help customers and watch the area.
Yes, the monitor is wearing a bright blue store vest. Sarah walks over to her. She doesn't want to sound angry or accusatory. She wants to be very polite. Let's listen to how she explains the situation.
Sarah says, "Excuse me, I am so sorry to bother you, but I think I just made a mistake. I was using machine number 3 just a minute ago, and I paid with a $10 bill. I think I walked away and forgot to take my change."
That is a perfect way to start the conversation. She uses "excuse me" and "I am so sorry to bother you" to show respect. She also clearly states which machine she was using and what happened.
The store monitor is very nice. She smiles and says, "Don't worry, that happens all the time. Let me check the machine's log or see if the money is still there." A log is a digital record that the machine keeps of every transaction.
Right. The monitor walks over to machine number 3. She politely asks the customer who is currently using it to wait for just a moment. Then she looks down at the coin dispenser and the bill dispenser. Guess what she finds, Hannah?
She finds the $2 bill and the 50-cent coin still sitting in the dispensers. The next customer hadn't noticed them yet because he was busy scanning his own items.
What a relief! The store monitor picks up the cash and the coin, turns to Sarah, and says, "Here's your change, $2.50. Sarah feels a huge weight lift off her shoulders. She thanks the monitor warmly, saying, "Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it."
And that is how Sarah got her money back. It is a simple story, but it is full of so many useful everyday English phrases. Let us break down those phrases together so our listeners can use them whenever they need help in a store.
That is a great idea, Hannah. Let us start right at the beginning of Sarah's conversation with the store monitor. Sarah said, "Excuse me, I am so sorry to bother you." This is a classic, polite way to get someone's attention, especially an employee who is busy working.
Exactly. The phrase, "excuse me," is very common, of course. But adding, "I am so sorry to bother you," makes it even more polite. It shows that you respect their time. For example, you can use this phrase when you want to ask a store clerk where the milk is. You could say, "Excuse me, I am so sorry to bother you, but where can I find the dairy section?"
That is a perfect example, Hannah. And notice how Sarah did not just say, "I lost my money." She explained the situation clearly and honestly. She said, "I think I just made a mistake." Admitting you made a mistake actually makes people more willing to help you.
It really does, Alex. It shows you are not blaming the machine or the store. You're taking responsibility. The phrase, to make a mistake, simply means to do something wrong by accident. For example, I made a mistake on my English test, but I learned from it.
Right. And then Sarah gave specific details. This is very important. She said, "I was using machine number 3 just a minute ago." Why do you think that detail is so important, Hannah?
Well, supermarkets often have 10 or 15 self-checkout machines. If you just say, the machine, the worker will not know where to look. By saying, machine number 3, Sarah saved a lot of time. And saying, just a minute ago, tells the worker that the event happened very recently.
Yes, just a minute ago is a wonderful conversational phrase. It does not literally mean exactly 60 seconds. It just means a very short time ago. You could say, "I finished my lunch just a minute ago," or "the bus left just a minute ago."
That is a very useful tip. Now, let us look at the next part of her explanation. Sarah said, "I paid with a $10 bill. I think I walked away and forgot to take my change." Here, she uses the past continuous, I was using, and the simple past, I paid and I walked away.
Yes, walked away is a phrasal verb. It means to leave a place by walking. In this case, she literally walked away from the machine. We use it all the time. For example, "Don't walk away while I am talking to you," or "He paid for his coffee and walked away."
And she also said, forgot to take my change. Change is a word with a few meanings, but here it means the money you get back when you pay with a larger bill. If an item costs $8 and you pay with a $10 bill, your change is $2.
Exactly. Sometimes learners get confused between coins and change. Coins are metal money, like pennies, dimes, or quarters. But change can be both paper bills and metal coins. It is just the balance of your transaction.
That is a very important distinction, Alex. Now, let us look at the store monitor's response. She was so friendly. She said, "Don't worry, that happens all the time."
Oh, I love that phrase. That happens all the time. It's a great way to make someone feel better. It means the action is very common and normal. It tells Sarah that she is not silly or stupid for forgetting her money.
Yes, if a friend spills a little bit of water on the table, you can say, "Don't worry, that happens all the time." It immediately lowers the stress of the situation.
It really does. Then the monitor says she would check the machine's log. We mentioned earlier that a log is a digital record. In the modern world, almost every machine keeps a log. Computers, websites, and even self-checkout machines. The log shows exactly what time Sarah scanned her soup, what time she put the $10 bill in, and what time the machine gave the change.
It is like a diary for computers. And then, when the monitor successfully found the money, Sarah used a very warm "thank you" phrase. She did not just say, "thanks." She said, "Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it."
Yes, "I really appreciate it" is a level up from a simple "thank you." To appreciate means to recognize the value of something or someone's effort. When you say, "I appreciate your help," you are saying, "Your help was truly valuable to me."
We use it when someone does a favor for us. For example, if your coworker helps you finish a difficult project, you can say, "Thank you for staying late to help me, Alex. I really appreciate it."
And I would say, "You're very welcome, Hannah." It is a great phrase for building good relationships, both in business and in everyday life.
And now, everyone, we are moving into a very exciting part of today's episode. We want to give you some practical, easy-to-use tips for staying calm and speaking English confidently during these unexpected public situations. It can be so scary when something goes wrong in public, especially if you have to speak a language that is not your first language.
Oh, absolutely. I still remember when I was learning my second language and I had to tell a bus driver that my ticket wasn't working. My heart was beating so fast. My mind went completely blank.
So our first tip for everyone listening today is take a deep breath before you speak. It sounds simple, but it changes everything.
It really does, Alex. When we are nervous, we tend to speak very quickly, and we might forget words. If you take just 3 seconds to breathe in and breathe out, you give your brain a moment to find the right English words. You don't have to start speaking the exact second you approach someone.
Exactly. The store employee or the bus driver will not mind if you pause for a moment. In fact, speaking slowly actually makes you sound more confident and easier to understand. My next tip is to use simple, short sentences. You do not need to explain a long, complicated story.
That is a wonderful point. In our story, Sarah did not say, "Well, I was thinking about my grandmother's soup, and then I put my wallet in my coat, and then I walked away because I was distracted." No, she kept it incredibly simple. She said, "Excuse me, I think I forgot my change at the machine."
Yes, just state the problem directly, but politely. You can use the basic structure, "Excuse me, I have a problem," or "Excuse me, I need some help." This prepares the other person to listen to you, and it gives you a transition into your main point.
Another great tip is to use body language and gestures if you forget a specific word. For example, if you forget the word dispenser or change, you can point to the machine and say, "My money is still inside there." Pointing is not rude when you are trying to explain a technical issue with a machine.
That is so true, Hannah. Communication is not just about perfect vocabulary. It is about getting your message across. You can use your hands, you can show your receipt, or you can even show a picture on your phone if that helps. The goal is to solve the problem together.
And what should our listeners do if they do not understand what the other person says? That is often the scariest part of public interactions.
Yes. If the store monitor speaks too fast or uses words you do not know, do not panic and do not just nod your head if you are confused. It is completely okay to ask them to repeat or slow down. You can say, "Could you say that again more slowly, please?" Or, "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that."
Oh, "I didn't quite catch that" is such a natural native phrase. Let's explain that one. To catch usually means to grab a ball with your hands, but in conversation, to catch means to hear or understand. So, "I didn't catch that" simply means I didn't hear or understand what you said.
Yes, it is very polite and natural. You can use it in a store, at work, or even with friends. Let's practice it once. Hannah, say something super fast.
"I think we should go and get some pizza soon because I'm a little bit hungry."
See, I can say, "I'm sorry, Hannah, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please slow down?"
Perfect. And I would happily repeat that I want pizza. That is a very friendly way to handle the situation. Another important thing to remember is that most people really want to help you. The store monitor in our story was not angry. She was happy to check the log and return the cash.
That is a great mindset shift. Often, we feel like we are interrupting or causing trouble, but resolving these small issues is literally their job. They deal with forgotten change, stuck items, and broken receipts all day long. Your situation is not going to shock them.
So true. To summarize our tips for today, first, take a deep breath to calm your mind. Second, use short, simple sentences. Third, feel free to use polite gestures or point to things. Fourth, ask the other person to slow down or repeat themselves if you didn't catch what they said. And finally, smile and say, "I appreciate your help" when it is all resolved.
Those are fantastic tips, Hannah. If you practice these steps, you will feel so much more comfortable next time you are shopping, traveling, or just navigating daily life in an English-speaking environment.
Well, we have reached the end of our episode today. We hope you enjoyed Sarah's self-checkout story and learned some useful vocabulary and tips for your next real-world English conversation.
Thank you so much for listening and practicing with us today. We really appreciate your support. Keep breathing, keep speaking, and we will see you in the next episode of the Easy English Podcast.